Welcome to the Lakers Fast Break, Lakers Nightcap with Joe Soro and Gerald Glassford, and whomever ends up chiming in here tonight. It's been a long weekend, but a good one. Uh, Today we saw some finalizations, if you will. One sad one and one. Well, I should say
They're both sad.
one sad one, but one manageable, but the other one, unfortunately, sad in its infinite sadness. Bill Walton passed away today at the age of 71. Uh, for those who never got a chance to really watch Bill Walton announce games or even play, now I was a little young before, in his main prime, but I did get a chance to see him announce, and he was unique and a delightful person to listen to, especially understanding that this was a gentleman who had major speech impediments, stuttering issues, and the fact that when he would go into his soliloquies on the broadcast, especially at the beginning of the games, he was always eloquent, very informative, and very giving. Giving is something also that should be pointed out for Bill Walton. Bill Walton only cared about the collective from the beginning till the end. That's just how he was. Just a really rare person, and it's sad to say that there weren't enough Bill Waltons out there that really genuinely cared about those around him. Really defined what team was. He was always about the team. Arguably the best college basketball player of all time, and what likely set that 86 Celtic team apart and could have been the best 80s team, arguably, because of him. And he ended up really playing 2 full seasons in terms of healthy seasons from looking at his statistics. One was in 1977, well, 78 too as well, but 1986 was his last healthy season, and that was the year the Celtics ended up winning a title in 6 against the Houston Rockets. The Celtics only lost 1 game at home that whole year. So again, thoughts, prayers. Not a big fan of using those 2 words in this situation, but it's Bill Walton and it's true. Thoughts and prayers to the Walton family, Luke and all the boys and his wife. This isn't hyperbole either. This was a true legend, and he will be missed forever, at least in the NBA for sure. So his former team tonight played its 4th game in the Eastern Conference Finals, the 3rd game where the Indiana Pacers absolutely ate you-know-what at the end, and another massive dud by Mr. Pascal Siakam. I don't know what the hell this guy was doing in this series, but it looked like he wanted this series to end so he can go on vacation. The Celtics end up sweeping the Indiana Pacers 4-0. They will be going to the finals. However, that wasn't a surprise. The East right now looks very similar to the 2007 East when the Cleveland Cavaliers upset the Detroit Pistons in Eastern Conference Finals to go on to get basically destroyed by the San Antonio Spurs. Now, when I say probably one of the worst, those 2 teams were a little different than what these 2 teams were. I'm just saying the East got way too easy. It almost seemed like every series the Celtics got exactly what they wanted, and their opponents did exactly what they wanted. So the Celtics are in the finals. Right now, we have to sit back and hope that the Mavericks finish off the Timberwolves here in 4, so that there aren't any excuses, there aren't any delays. I want to see Luka and Kyrie do what they've been doing here against the Celtics. And one thing that we know for sure, they're not going to pull any choke jobs, and that's what I'm looking for. We need to cheer for Dallas, folks. And that's just what it's got to be. Jim Carrey. I'd say Rick Carlisle did coach like Jim Carrey tonight, or would be like what it would be like if the real Jim Carrey actually coached this team. He just could not find the right formula at the end of the games, and I think he made himself. He really, really screwed himself by not sitting Siakam on some of these games when he just could not perform.
3 fourth quarter leads. And in those 2 minutes in each of those games, I think they made only one shot combined.
Yeah, it's been the conference finals. It's been the theme of both conference finals. The Minnesota Timberwolves were ahead in the 3 games. They were ahead. I can't remember if it was game 1 with 2 minutes left. Game
1 and 2.
Game 1 and 2 was like 2 and 3 minutes left, and then 5 minutes. I think no, actually, I think 5 minutes was game 2. But either way, the last 5 minutes of the game, in each of those games, the Minnesota Timberwolves had some lead going into the end of the game.
The Mavs won by 1, by 2, and then the last game they were down with about 3 or 4 minutes left, and they pulled it out in the last 2 minutes on that one.
And both had a similar theme in terms of their star players. The star players came up lame badly. I mean, terribly. For Minnesota, Mr. Karl Anthony Towns, I don't know what went on with him. I don't know why he can't perform. I don't know why he can't make a shot to save his life. Well, actually, I do know why, because if any smart team can just put someone in front of him, he's not going to be able to make any shots. He can't step around you. He's not going to blow by you. He's not going to post you up, do a drop step, hook off the glass, and make a shot. So it's interesting how you can get to that conclusion and then start thinking to yourself, what makes Karl Anthony Towns good? I really, really have been thinking about that. What makes Karl Anthony Towns good? Is it just him making shots? He's just good at shooting? What substance does he have in terms
Remember,
of
he is the self-professed best shooting big man of all time.
And
he said that.
Yeah.
He said that.
Right. That's interesting that the team that is beating him actually has the best shooting big man of all time, and that is Mr. Dirk Nowitzki. So I think the irony there is hilarious. You cannot call yourself the greatest of anything and then perform the way you've performed, because you could be the best game 48, game 32, game 81 shooter of all time, but can you shoot in the Western Conference Finals when it matters? If you can't shoot there, then what are you good for? You're good for nothing. I'm sorry. The NBA, even more than any other sport, because of the importance of the individual player, because there's only 5 on that floor for your team. That player plays offense and defense and plays different positions. There is no important player. There is no more important player in sports than the basketball player, because there's only 5 on that court, and because they play all positions and they play all in both directions. So now, if you're going to call yourself the greatest of anything, you have to perform at the highest level. The reason why Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time is because he never failed at the highest level. Yes, he's lost in the second round, lost in the first round, lost in the Eastern Conference Finals during his career. But when he reached the highest level, he never failed. And not only did he not fail, he won more at that level in the last 50 years. And then, of course, the talent helps too. It's all kind of part of the process. So it's been clear why these two teams have not won and why the other teams have won. Well, you have Luka and you have Kyrie making shots when they're supposed to, and the other team isn't. So now we are likely to see the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics in the finals here shortly. And we're going to get into more detail on that probably as the weeks go on. We still got to wait for Dallas to win, of course. You never know. I know it's 152-0 for 03 teams. But, you never know. I saw the Boston Red Sox in 04 break that trend. You just never know. And the Celtics almost did it last year against Miami. And if it's ever going to happen, it's probably going to happen in an era where you have shooting. That's kind of the basis of the offenses. And then, all I saw was 3-point shots being taken here the last few games. That's all these guys do. But anyways, the Celtics are going to the finals. They're 4 wins away from making this season worse than it already is. And to segue into the Lakers discussion, since we are the Lakers fast break, it is a nightcap. I would have a nightcap officially right now, guys, but I've been having nightcaps for the last 4 days. I have to take a break. I'll have a nightcap at another time. So I apologize for that, folks. Today's nightcap is I'd rather be sleeping right now, but of course we're professionals here. We have to do a show and we have to entertain, and that's what we're doing now here. Let's see here. Mr. Z, Los Angeles pussies get timed out because you tell them facts. Kobe would call you soft. Get timed out because you tell them facts. Well, I don't know. What do you think about that, Gerald? I mean, there's some truth there, right?
I'm sure Kobe would call quite a bit of what
you brought up an interesting point, Mr. Z. We discussed this a few times. And I use the example of family patriarchs and matriarchs when they pass away. And I used Kobe as I know Rob Pelinka is not related to Kobe, but I really wonder, because it's mind-boggling to me. I really wonder if Rob Pelinka would be the same guy he is now if Kobe was alive. I would like to think that Kobe would be the guy going, what the hell are you doing this last couple of years? Like, what were you thinking? But that's just me maybe wishfully thinking. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Rob Pelinka, and this was before this fiasco. There was this just feeling in watching his speech, and getting a feeling that you're like, why is he talking like this? Like, you sound like one of those evangelists, like just full of crap, or a corporate mouth. I know he's a lawyer, I know he's an agent, but at the same time, why do that now as a general manager of a basketball team? I never got a good feeling from Rob. I never did, and it's proven, year by year here that it's actually a good intuition for all of us who didn't. But yeah, I'd like to think, Z. I'd like to think that he'd definitely be rocking him up. I don't have any doubt in my head on that. But I don't know. I think we're stuck with him for right now, and he's got a major job here in the next few months, and each job that he has to execute is tied into the other jobs, meaning you have to get the correct coach. That coach has to have at least some say in the roster building, i.e. the draft, free agency. And then at the same time, you got to have your star players buy into it all. Really, it's more LeBron James, because I think Anthony Davis will buy into it. How do you do all that? You've already given LeBron has already been coached by 3 coaches now since he's been a Laker?
Well, the last year,
Luke Walton,
yes,
Frank Vogel, whom we've discussed clearly that I don't really ever remember in the 3 years he was coaching where I felt like, God, this guy, what the hell is this guy doing? He had games where you're like, I wish he would have done something like
or the offense. I know the offense was a lot of it,
but it was never at the point where you're like, does this guy know how to coach? There's a difference, because sometimes you have certain players, the the year the offense struggled, which was 2021, was the year that AD couldn't stay healthy. And that's kind of what I attributed to that whole situation. And then when he got back, before he really got injured against Phoenix, they were running on all cylinders. So some guys are just defensive coordinators at head coaches. They're good at setting up the team that way. And then there's some that are offensive coordinators that are good to set up. I thought, again, Frank Vogel, I thought was the perfect coach for this particular era of LeBron, for the LeBron and AD era. But we obviously saw that they let Russell Westbrook not only destroy their team, but they actually let him destroy the coach as well. It's just the more you think about it, the more the connections just keep coming in droves and waves of just terrible negative things. But looking at where the status is right now with the coaching, it seems like that JJ Redick has taken the forefront of this coaching vacancy. And I've even heard about some assistant coaches that might be available as well. And I don't know about you, Gerald, but I'm not feeling this. I'm trying to understand what is the benefit of bringing on a coach who has not coached in the NBA, who's insulted NBA greats, insulted eras of basketball, not one era. Like, he might have been able to get away with the plumber comment because there were only 8 to 9 teams playing back in the 50s and 60s. And some of those guys did have second jobs, probably plumbing, maybe roofing, maybe bricklayers. Sure. You can't say he was lying, right? But then when you say watered down in the 90s, you set yourself up for not really for failure. You set yourself up for not having any respect, especially when you weren't even a great player. If LeBron says the 90s was watered down, you'd get mad at because LeBron is saying it, right? Because LeBron has a tendency to put his foot in his mouth. But LeBron has cachet. He's one of the greats. But JJ Redick, do I see JJ Redick being able to cover Jerry West? Do you, Gerald?
No.
Do you see JJ Redick guarding Michael Jordan, Dominique Wilkins? How about John Starks? How about Dan Marley? How about KJ? How about Kevin Johnson? How about Tim Hardaway? Tim Hardaway would have that guy dancing. Tim Hardaway would have JJ Redick doing the two-step. You can't talk like that.
It's bad, Joe. And okay, Laker Tom sends you and I. Hold on, Laker Tom sends you and I that Twitter message that supposedly Mark Stein or league sources, whatever it says on there, from a random Twitter account, that Sam Cassell and James Borrego would be prime targets for Redick's staff, and that they're also looking at getting Laker Tom's favorite 15th player, best 15th player of all time, according to Laker Tom. It's an old joke that we used to have before you came on here, Joe. Jared Dudley, who is an assistant now with Dallas, to come onto the staff. And I'm thinking to myself, here we go again, Joe. First off, you're not letting the JJ Redick decide who he wants on the staff. You're doing it again. And B, if you're James Borrego and Sam Cassell and you're there to interview for the head coaching job, and they say, well, how about assistant? How'd you guys like that? They'd be like, okay. Because, Joe, when you're going in for a job, let's say you're whatever head of the company, you're going in as CEO and they want you to go in as the mid-level manager. That's not exactly what was advertised.
Yeah. I guess we could make it an assumption that
he's already assistant. Eric
they're
Sam
trying
Cassell's
to
already
bring in.
assistant.
They're trying to do maybe what they did with Frank Vogel and Jason Kidd. They brought in Jason Kidd as the assistant under Frank Vogel, and I think they thought of, well, if Frank Vogel doesn't work out, we can shift over to Jason Kidd. Maybe they're thinking that right now with Sam Cassell.
Here we go all over again.
And they look at the Boston Celtics. Again, these guys don't have any innovation. They're just they're copying things. Like they're setting themselves up for failure, essentially, is what they're doing. They're not setting up the team for the future.
This is 2019 all over again.
It's exhausting sitting here. And this is something that's just not sports, folks. It's not sports. And I'm sorry if you're listening to the show for the first time, the 10th time, or you're lurking and you're like, God, these guys just make me want to cry. You know what? You're right. You're right. I want to cry too. But I can't interpret it any other way. But these guys don't do anything. They don't do anything smart. Why are you hiring people who don't have any experience when you need to win championships?
So I put up the note right there for you from Roy Estrada, which touches on that, because you and I have been from the very beginning hard-nosed on JJ, even though we both think that he's the betting leader in the clubhouse right now, despite our best differences on that. Roy says, Joe, you're saying no on JJ, but name a candidate who is available who you would choose to coach the Lakers, because JJ will become the coach by default. I will argue with you even with no coaching experience. Nobody's arguing that, Roy. We understand, both of us, that he is the leader in the clubhouse as far as what the Lakers are, according to reports, are leaning on as far as a coach. It's not that we're happy about it, though. I think that's what we're trying to explain.
My initial reaction to the candidates was sadness there too. But I'd rather have someone that has coached recently, like right now. Yeah, they may not have coached as a head coach, but someone who might be on the way up. Look at Mazzulla. He gets put in this weird predicament 2 years ago, and look what he's done.
From the Ime Udoka stuff.
For the Udoka stuff, right? And there are good assistant coaches out there, folks. I don't think the Boston Celtics just said, oh, we're going to put Mazzulla in there because, oh, we're screwed right now. I believe they said, look, this is the best candidate for this team right now. And the Lakers have a history of doing that kind of stuff, right? They put in Pat Riley, and it was successful. They used Westhead. He was an assistant coach. McKinney couldn't continue year one. He was able to do his thing. The Lakers, as far as who I would pick to what's available right now, I would say Chris Quinn was like the one that would ring in my head, because he has coached recently. He's with some kind of stability in that. And Stone had mentioned it doesn't necessarily matter if they're coming from a winning organization, which there's some truth to that. But there is good vibes when a coach comes from an organization that's run well. That's why you see a lot of these ex-Spurs coaches getting jobs, and you see, like, let's say the Celtics, you see the Miami Heat. Why those guys are always looked on as guys that are the type of guys that want to, basically the kind of guys you want coming into your team so that you can get some of that organization. Will Hardy, right? Came from Boston, right? Mazzulla. Like, you had two coaches that you never heard of up until 2 years ago having really good careers right now so far. So I'd like to have something like that, because I'm not just thinking about next year and the year after. I'm thinking, can we get a coach that can stay here for 5, 6, 7 years and build a culture again? but it just doesn't look like that's the case. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. And I'm not, and I was asked, am I going to watch the Lakers if JJ Redick gets hired? Folks, that's a completely different scenario than the LeBron James Jr. situation. Okay. You got to go pick a coach, and we could be wrong on the coach. I could be wrong. We could be wrong. JJ might he might hit. I was wrong about Dwight Howard when they picked him up in 2020. I was like, why are you bringing this chump? This guy went to Houston. He went to Atlanta. He went to Charlotte. He went to Washington. I mean, why do you want to bring that nutcase to the Lakers, especially after what he did before? Well, we were wrong. He was the perfect backup center that season and helped the Lakers beat Denver. So we could be wrong on this. We could be wrong. And the difference between this and, let's say, LeBron James Jr. is we know LeBron James Jr. is not an NBA player. And if you're going to focus on that while you need talent, then you're not really thinking about winning basketball games. That's clear right there. And if you're not going to care about winning basketball, which would be the first time I can remember ever that the Lakers did not care, that would be a full sign that they don't care, then I don't have any business watching your games. That's the truth.
Roy says, I 100% agree about our inept owner and front office. We desperately need a change in ownership and front office. Been preaching it for quite some time, years, in fact. The owner has no clue and makes decision with feelings.
Correct. And we can't fire the owner, although there could be, how do I say this? We could ostracize her, but through ticket sales and through merchandising sales, and essentially stop watching the advertisements on Sportsnet and NBA League Pass. But you all know that this thing, when they say sports is fixed, I always answer the same way recently. It's absolutely fixed, except the context is different than what you think. Sports is fixed in that they already know their audience. They already know our habits. They already know exactly what's going to happen there. You know how they know? It's the TV contracts, folks. Those guys, the Nelson rating people, it goes much more in depth there. It's very, very, very clear on how they know what is going to bring in X amount of dollars in advertisement. If movies could be done like that, they would have done it 100 years ago. Can't do that in movies. That's why movies is kind of a hit and miss. Movies is about, talk about feelings. Movies about, man, I want to go see Top Gun in the theater like it did, last summer. You want that feeling of that plane, and it's Tom Cruise, and it's nostalgia, and it's good-looking people, and all that stuff, right? Right? That's hard to get sometimes in that setting. But in TV, where advertisement dollars are abundant, and then on top of that, you have a gambling ring that has been built, that's continuing to be built day in and day out. All you see all day now is DraftKings, bet this, pay $5, get $150.
ESPN bet.
They are trying to turn this country into a gambling. They're trying to turn everyone into a degenerate gambler. Why? Same reason why I guess they're trying to pay kids in college and in high school. Because it's fair, right? Because it's fun? I don't know. But it's done, folks. It's done. They know they're going to get their billions of dollars in their TV contracts. They don't need an audience. But I will say this, and I'll say it again. If they are not concerned about winning and only appeasing some Family Matters type situation, I'll still come to the show, but I'm not watching the Laker games. At least I'm not watching them like I used to.
With JJ and Bronny.
No. JJ's different. I'm not. No, look, JJ. Despite the situation,
we're going to give him a chance.
We have to give him a chance. This is not. We could be wrong on that one. So that's not the same. It's a bad choice. Just like I knew after media day that Darvin Ham was a bad choice. But we have to see how things play out. He could surprise us. But if they draft Bronny, it's not going to look good in terms of attention at that.
I think Darvin Ham got to pick his own assistants outside of Handy.
And that's what's mind-boggling. They didn't let Frank Vogel, their championship coach, pick his staff, but then they let Ham pick his staff.
Yeah.
And then what did they do when they got rid of Ham? He fired all them. They fired everyone there, right? Even the one we wanted. Anybody know why they fired Phil Handy? I've been trying to look for something about that. No one can tell me anything. I heard some lame excuse about how they wanted to free him up to go get a head coaching job. Who the hell pulled that out of their ass?
Eli is so funny because, the rumors that Bronny James is going to be working out for the Phoenix Suns, which is, I think, around 22, 23, 24 in that area. So if the Phoenix Suns get him, they can expect to bring Dad on as well for the minimum. And I'm just thinking to myself, he is going to leave $160 million on the table with the Lakers to go play for the minimum with his son in Phoenix. I'm just, Eli, I know there's a lot of people out there, that don't want LeBron coming back to the Lakers, but with that kind of money on the table, I don't think he'll pass that up, Joe.
There's no thinking there. This is
160 million, 2 million.
There's been headlines in the podcast world about LeBron James is now a free agent.
Yeah, I know that. Rich Paul stated that. Yeah, Rich Paul stated that.
Okay, what does that mean?
He's declining his option for next year.
Okay, we knew that. Now what? Where's he going to go? Orlando?
Philadelphia?
Philadelphia? Is Philadelphia going to pay him $60 million a year?
I don't think they can do the full 60. They can get to above 50. I know that.
Okay. So LeBron and Philly, if Philly promises that they draft his son, does he go to Philly?
Good question.
And let me ask you this. Who has the worst media in sports and the fan base? And no, it's not the Raiders. Yes, folks, it's Philly. That guy will have one bad game, and he'll get ripped to shreds.
They're at 16, just to let you know, in that first round.
Well,
and 41.
I wouldn't say anybody's going to pick him in the first round. It'll probably be in the second round.
41.
No one is going to pick Bronny in the first round.
That's what those rumors with Phoenix were all about, just to let you know. And Phoenix has the number 22.
If that's true, Roy, if that is true, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Eli was just, as a Suns fan, he's just letting us know what their scuttlebutt is.
Look, folks, there's no way LeBron is going to Phoenix for one reason and one reason only. Kevin Durant has been running away from the Golden State era of his life so he could win on his own. He's not going to compound that by bringing LeBron there. He's already destroyed his career in a sense of not being able to get past the Golden State time that he deeply regrets. I guarantee you, if you sat with KD, had a few drinks with him, no one's around, he trusts you, you're not leaving anything out of that, you're not taking anything out of that room, and you said, all right, Kevin, I want you to be honest with me here. We're going to go back to 2016, summer of 2016. Do you go to the Golden State Warriors? I guarantee you'd say no. That destroyed his career, according to him, because he couldn't take the ribbing. You know
Well,
how many? Yeah.
I was going to say it's so funny because I was looking at articles the other day at NBA and random NBA articles. One had a trade proposal of KD going back to the Warriors, and I'm just like, okay, I don't think that's going to happen.
It would have been much easier for Kevin Durant to go to the front office in 2016 and tell Presti that I really, really need to play with someone besides Russell Westbrook. That would have been a much easier way to approach what he was doing. Russell Westbrook was in his prime. He would have fetched a lot of stuff, and it could have helped Kevin Durant a little bit. Presti set the stage for that potential dynasty to go down the hill a little bit in trading James Harden because they didn't want to pay him the max at the time. But Kevin Durant shouldn't have left to go to Golden State. He should have stayed at Oklahoma, been the Oklahoma guy, and he would have never turned into this torn, tortured soul. I mean, you all you got to do is go back and look at Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant, guys, he was in the league for 10 years before he left. He was drafted in 07. He was the most mild-mannered, nice guy you could ever see. After the Golden State thing, he turned into just a depressed, different person.
How wild is it that we still have two members of the Seattle Supersonics still playing in the NBA?
I think it'll be hilarious if those guys retire the same day or off season when the Sonics get back. Well, first in Seattle,
they'll probably do they'll probably do a one day contract for both of them.
What is that 1 day contract? What does it say in their statistics that they signed a 1 day contract? What does that even mean?
But they remember the team for one last.
Yeah, you don't go to their lifetime statistics and see, ended in 2000 so and so, and they were with this team. If you want to stay with the team your whole career, you're either going to have to be Kobe Bryant, Dirk Nowitzki, or Tim Duncan, because most of those guys, except for Kobe, took pay cuts. That's why. If you're not going to take pay cuts, then you probably have to bounce. Who is better now, Bron or KD?
That's a good question, Jeremy.
I think Bron is better. I think Bron has always been better.
I disagree. I say there was one small window when KD was better than LeBron, but outside of that, and that was right around the time KD won the title over LeBron and won the MVP over LeBron. But that's just a very short windows. But overall, I think you're right that LeBron has been better.
So let's talk about that year. What year was it? 2000. What was it? 2012?
Yeah. No. It was 17, 16 when he was playing on the Warriors.
No, Durant never won an MVP in Golden State. He won it at Oklahoma.
No, Finals MVP.
Oh, no, Gerald. You can't count the Golden State stuff.
Why can't I count? See, that's you're saying. When do I? You're asking me my opinion.
He was never better, dude. He had a prime Clay, prime Draymond, prime Steph.
I'm telling you when he was a better player, in my opinion, for a short window of time. That's my opinion.
I don't believe he was ever better than LeBron.
Okay, well,
even in his MVP year, which was opinion. What? Didn't he win the MVP in 12?
Are you talking about MVP or Finals
of the league?
MVP? Yeah, I think it was 12 when he was with OKC.
Iguodala won a Finals MVP, so that, which by the way should have gone to LeBron anyways.
All right. It's just.
I mean, you were talking value here, right?
Okay.
You tell me.
Right now, LeBron is a better player than Durant.
LeBron has always been a better player than Durant, and if Durant does not leave Oklahoma City and play for the Golden State Warriors, he probably doesn't win a championship.
Bag and Dragon, I think Chris Paul will try to latch. He's going to go ring chasing. It depends on who might give him the best chance at a ring or who he feels. But he would be with the Lakers, or you said the Clippers, BD, for the minimum. But I don't think either of those teams, and their current state of roster, and Joe will probably agree with me, are at a championship level right now.
So Durant won the MVP in 2014.
Okay. That was not their, was that their finals run?
That was when they got beat by the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah. Okay. Question for Lakers Nation from Eli. Who is the best Lakers player of all time? We did an episode on that one.
I can't pick between Kobe and Magic. It's tied. I can't pick.
I don't think you can have a wrong answer.
If you had to pick one, and it's because of the aura, the culture, the everything, it's got to be Magic. Magic was Showtime. Magic was John Williams. For those of you who don't know, John Williams is, composer, created one of the
Star Wars and all
Star
that.
Wars, Jaws,
Indiana Jones. Yeah.
The thing is, he's the best player.
Well, let's say one game. Let's say you needed the best player at their height for one game.
I don't know.
That's what I think.
I don't know.
I'd say I'm going to probably lean Kobe, because Kobe just, as an elite scorer, there's maybe only him and Jordan at that point in time.
You can't pick a center, guys, because centers have to wait for the guards to get in the ball.
And then the center was Wilt better than Kareem? Was Shaq better than either one of them? Then you get into that debate.
So that one's a little easier to debate. Wilt Chamberlain was statistically the best, but his 2-4 record in the finals isn't encouraging. And Shaquille's attitude, I believe, kept him from winning more championships. His laziness. So that gets docked. Kareem, if you're going to pick the best center of all time, I would still pick Kareem 1 and Bill Russell 2. That would be my 1 and 2.
You can't go wrong.
Shaq, you can say is a top 5. I think there's a clearness there. You have Kareem, Bill Russell, Wilt, Hakeem, and Shaq. I take those 5 centers if I had to do a top 5 pick.
Does Jokic ever get in there for you? You said at one time, I think earlier this year, that he was starting to creep into that conversation for you.
I don't think Jokic is better than those 5. He'll be statistically, in terms of MVPs and triple doubles, better than those guys. Sure.
His defensive inefficiencies?
I don't know if it's so much defensive inefficiencies. I just don't think he's a better player than those guys. I don't think there's any way he could. There's no way Jokic could. I mean, it'd be scary how it would be scary how he would get worked by Hakeem in the block. Hakeem covering him. Oh my God! If he thinks he can do that little drop step thing with somebody like Hakeem who's got instincts like a cat, and then you got Shaq. If you watch Shaq when he really wanted to play defense, and for those of you who don't remember, Shaq was the runner-up in 2000 Defensive Player of the Year. Lonzo won it that year. He was a runner-up. And then you have Kareem, Wilt. No, I just can never. He could win 2 more MVPs. I don't think I could ever pick Jokic over any of those guys ever. I can't compare Bill Russell because I never watched him play. Wilt either. Kareem, very little. But Shaq and Hakeem, no. I don't see it.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with the names that you mentioned. So
yeah. So it's been an interesting week. I did not expect 2 series to go 7-0 so far. I was expecting the Minnesota series to go 6 and was hoping that Indiana would surprise. What was a surprise is Halliburton didn't play in 2 of those 3 games that they should have won to boot. And they still lost at the end with terrible play. But it's not a surprise. We kind of picked Boston to get to the finals. Right now, it's imperative that Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving win Game 4, get to the finals. And right now, of course, the birds are talking already about this being the greatest backcourt that's ever played in the NBA. Revisionist history, prisoners of the moment type stuff. But I will say this. If they win a championship, it's definitely gonna get one of the best. But right now, you can't, guys. You can't say best backcourt. Right now, it's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the 2 best shooters of our existence. I saw a list of the best shooters of all time. It had Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, Steph Curry, and who was the other one? Was it Dale Ellis? Can't remember who it was. I can't remember who the 4th guy was. But I'm like, well, where's Klay? Klay's arguably the 2nd best shooter I've ever seen. Is anybody going to argue that?
I'm not. I mean, they could just go what did he have like in that 1 quarter?
He had 30 and a quarter.
Yeah.
He had 61 in 29 minutes?
Yes.
He dribbled the ball like 4 times?
Yes, I remember that.
Somebody, statisticians, get that for us.
But
if and buts, we're candy and nuts. You all right there, Sean? What are you doing over there? Human will never let Luka go. Well, Luka's up for a $348 million extension.
That is correct. In that range, yes.
Yeah. So he'll average 71.2 mil. Let me repeat that, folks. 71. That's 71 million point 2 average annual salary when he signs that Supermax deal.
Oh, that's not even the Whopper. SGA is even more, Joe.
I'm sorry to say, with all due respect to SGA, he is not that guy. But Luka is 5 wins away from being that guy. And for those of you who don't like Stone Cold Hansen for the Stone Cold truth, you noticed every guy Stone likes seems to win. You notice that?
Yep.
So listen to the man. We don't bring Stone on here for his health, our health, or your health. We want the stone cold truth. And the stone cold truth usually hurts. But it's correct. Now, do you want to be correct or do you want to feel good? You tell me. Sean, do you want to feel good or be correct? Or I'll slap you one. How about that? That's not my line, Baggin. That's somebody else's line. But, again, Stone, his actual name is Stone. And cold fits not because it's Stone Cold's name, Steve Austin, but because he is cold, right? It's just, it fits. To me, that's Stone Cold. Nash is the better shooter, guys. Yeah.
Well, he was a good shooter, just didn't want to shoot.
But he didn't shoot enough, Sean. He was very efficient, and I it makes sense.
But asking him to be a scorer was just not something he really relished doing.
Exactly. Ooh, Bird. That Sorry, I can't believe I forgot about Bird. You know what the problem with Bird is? Did you see the stats on how many times Bird shot the three in the 80s? You want to
No.
know the 1 year? 1 year he shot only 3.1 shots from three. And then every year before and after that was 2 or 1. So it's hard to put Bird in that because he never shot. He didn't shoot enough. As weird as that sounds, he never shot enough. Kyle Korver, Del Curry, Kyle Korver, Dale Ellis. Those guys were situational shooters. I'm talking about superstars that were good shooters. Sean Grice, he was part of the 50, 40, 90 club. Let's see. You're forgetting Kyle Korver. Bird didn't show. We may never know, Sean. I hope that's not your argument. Yeah, Sean, clean yourself up there, bud. I don't know what the hell you're doing over there. Dr. J, I don't know, was necessarily a good shooter.
It's so funny because if you look at his stats, Joe, over the course of his career, it was either really, really good for Bird behind the arc or really, really bad. 1 year he went from 24% to 42% the next season. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy, Joe.
Yeah, it just wasn't that type of game. Jordan was interviewed about his performance against Portland in '92, where he kept making. He hit 6 threes in the first half. He said shooting threes takes his game away. It takes the other parts of his game away. And if you look at how the league is played right now, what do we always say about the league's issues? Fundamentals, not enough players moving, not enough. How many times do they get called for illegal screens? No one knows how to set a screen the right way. No one knows how to do a drop step. No one knows how to get to a spot deep into the paint for an easy score. Why? Because they're too busy shooting threes. And when you talk about that in terms of comparing it to the previous eras, folks, if you're going to say what would LeBron do in the 80s, folks, LeBron bothers me just as much as some of you guys get bothered by him. But if you put LeBron James' athleticism and basketball skills in the 80s, you have to also factor in him growing up in the 70s. It would be scary how good LeBron would be. Imagine LeBron with Michael Jordan's upbringing or Dr. J's upbringing. And I say upbringing as in, each generation gets softer and softer. Why? Because there's more technology, there's more information, things are always made easier for the next generation. So imagine if LeBron grew up in those situations, he'd be the greatest player that ever lived. And that's a fact. Kobe Bryant happened to be the guy that kind of was already there this late. You had the Vince Carters, you had the Dwayne Wades, you had the Tracy McGrady's, all phenomenal players, great players, but none of those guys had Kobe's work ethic. None.
Eric, yeah, KD is an underrated shooter. I also think he's an underrated passer as well. I've seen the way, especially in his time in Brooklyn, Eric, I really thought he was a very good distributor of the ball, very underrated passer.
You're talking about KD?
KD, yes. But he's talking about as a shooter. He said one of the best shooters of his, as far as out there as well. Just never gets talked about it. Just always gets talked about his scoring ability.
Okay, so let's talk about the Golden State Warriors in 17 and 18. You could argue you had the 3 greatest shooters of all time in their prime on the same team. If you came to me and said Kevin Durant is a top 3 shooter of all time, I'm not going to argue against it. I never saw KD shoot And I'm like, oh, that ain't going in. First thought is, oh, shit. Especially if he's wide open. So what do you define as a great shooter? Are you defining it like I've been hearing the Del Currys and the Dale Ellises, the Kyle Korvers? Guys, no one was afraid of those guys. All due respect to Del Curry, Dale Ellis, Kyle Korver. No one was afraid of those guys. You were deathly afraid of Kyle, of Durant, of Curry, of Clay, Reggie, Bird. You have to have fear of a player for me to say this guy's great. Is there no more a definition of a great player in his particular skill set than fearing it?
His career number is 39%. But did you know his first year in Phoenix, Joe, the time he was there, it was only a few games. He was shooting about 50%, but last season 41%. Yeah, he shot 40% several times throughout his career. So he's got pretty good numbers, and he's always shot 90% or thereabouts from the line.
Kobe shot 44.9% from the field in his career. Wouldn't say it was a good percentage, right?
Jeremy with a great question here. I'm sorry to throw you off track, but Joe, let's talk about drop coverage. Something the Lakers did quite honestly a lot with AD. Your thoughts on drop coverage, because it has been a bane of Minnesota's existence in this series.
Thank you, Laker girl. Appreciate it. I will be talking to you this week about getting on your show as well. Thank you. The drop coverage defense is one of two things. One, a non-innovative coach. Number two, doesn't have the recipe to run a more consistent defense. So they didn't have the tools in terms of not running a drop coverage.
It's basically when you ask your center in a pick and roll, clean up everything, to lay back in the key. You don't want him stepping up to the perimeter to guard or switch on a man,
because they'll get backdoored left and right. I'm not going to put. Look, Darvin Ham was a terrible coach, but there are some things too where he didn't really have a chance to succeed in, and that was really on the defensive end. He did not have. The Lakers had Austin Reeves, D'Lo, and LeBron James starting, whom are three below average, and below defenders. Who is below, you can pick either one on any given night. But below average, all three of your perimeter players, it's going to be very, very difficult to play man-to-man defense. I guess you could say pressure defense, trap defense. LeBron doesn't have the energy to do that. D'Angelo doesn't have the footwork to do that. Austin Reeves, God bless him, he tried. I saw it with my own eyes. Played his butt off against Denver on a lot of those things. He tried. And that's why the criticism isn't so hard on Austin towards the end. Because, guys, you got to be realistic. If somebody's trying to do something and it's not working, whether it's because they're not athletic enough, they're not tall enough, they're not fast enough, look, you can't fault that person. I'm sorry, God didn't give them what we need him to have. And it goes with the coach too. What's his option? He's going to go put Max Christie in there? JHS? No. There was a deficiency in talent in a lot of areas with this team where Darvin Ham made his major mistakes was internal mentality and the ability to motivate and understand what needed to get done to put your team in the best possible position. His issues were he did not take things seriously that were serious. Playoff positioning matters. It matters.
Jeremy, I put in there a quick link that gives you a 2-minute video explanation of what drop coverage is. Just wanted to let you know. It's in the chat now.
I think the Lakers didn't get picked apart as much as they did last year. It's just they turned into what Indiana and Minnesota turned into here the last 2 series.
Just can't close the valve.
They can't close the door. Seems to be a theme. Maybe it's analytical. I don't know. But it seems like some of these teams are letting this happen, playing the analytics game, going, hey, we know this guy's going to be put in the wrong position. Let's funnel him this way. Let's funnel him that way. We know he's going to. A lot of these guys are dribbling into traffic. What the hell were they thinking? Why is Siakam driving in the middle? Because the defense is forcing him to do it. Maybe. Pascal Siakam cost the Pacers the series. He made 2 mistakes that cost 2 games for the Pacers. And it looked like he didn't even care. But anyways, it's been a great weekend personally, but my God, basketball, I'm just ready to get to the finals. I need this thing to end. For all of you, I don't know about you guys, the NBA season needs to end because we need to start focusing on what this will entail at this point. I think I'm a little over the 24 season. But I am going to predict that the Dallas Mavericks are going to beat Minnesota and finish this off here, Game 4, for sure in Game 5, and then go on to face the Celtics. And where I think if there's no injury issues, I really believe that the Mavericks have 2 clutch players that can get this done. And Luka is getting into legendary status, and of course Kyrie has some proving to do where he can win without LeBron, although that's not really a big narrative. Now, I've been hearing some narratives about how Kyrie's going to give Boston his revenge game. I'm like, dude, Kyrie screwed that up. That's not Boston's thing. If anything, it's Boston putting the revenge on to Kyrie. Kyrie screwed that up, not Boston. So I don't know about all this payback stuff. Kyrie was the jerk in that situation, much like how he was with the Nets. But with that, we're going to need Kyrie to play the way he's been playing, and of course Luka, because we cannot afford number 18 to go to the green turds. If it just can't happen, it doesn't matter. Even if this was the Clippers, I'd be cheering for the Clippers. So with that, we're going to see what the results are here in the Western Conference Finals. We'll be talking a lot more about that, and I'm sure that there's going to be some discussions here next week or so on the coaching front for the Lakers. And then, of course, the draft. Go ahead.
I just want to drop one last thing. I want your definitive opinion on this because you and I both know LeBron will be signing an extension, or at least he'll be offered an extension. As soon as the finals end, the Lakers are allowed to go ahead and start negotiating. They have a window of opportunity until he officially becomes a free agent, so to speak. So, as I tell everybody, whether or not we want or don't want LeBron on the team going forward, I don't think that matters to Jeannie and Rob, because remember, I tell everybody about that one night when LeBron took the night off and he had Jeannie on one arm and Linda Rambis on the other. And you could just tell that is a man who has all the power and all the control of what's going to go forward with his future. And Joe, I think a lot of people probably want to know out there definitively your thoughts on whether or not the Lakers should keep LeBron or not, because I see it growing. I see a growing tension of a lot more people are now saying more and more that they do not want LeBron on the team going forward.
I don't. However, I don't trust the current regime to advance the team. And I saw Drew Holiday make 2 clutch plays in this series. The exact opposite of Siakam was Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday was not a Celtic when the season started. How the hell did they get Drew Holiday? We always sit here and go, oh, we're not going to be able to get anybody. We're not going to be able to do this because we can't do this. We can't do that. You know what Dr. Buss used to say when David Stern and all those owner stooges assholes would try to create every new thing in the CBA to combat the Lakers? He'd always say, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out a way. Don't worry about that. Just get this thing done. Go get Shaq. Trade for Kobe. Get Ori. Convince Rick Fox to take less. I'll hook him up. Bring back D. Fish. We'll get Horace Grant. Don't worry about it. There ain't no can'ts. That's the old Mickey line in Rocky. There ain't no can'ts. And unfortunately, this team is run by a bunch of can'ts. And until you bring a can in this decision-making where it matters, I don't know what the hell to expect. If you want a short answer on what I would do right now if I was GM, there's no doubt LeBron would not be a Laker. I would sit Anthony Davis down. I'd be like, Anthony, you have 3, maybe 4 years left. You still haven't won an MVP. I'm going to find you a coach that's going to get you an MVP. But there's one issue. I got to get rid of LeBron James. I got to bring you someone that's in their prime, that can be your equal on the perimeter, and someone who could play some defense too. But I'm gonna need to do this, and I'm gonna need to do that for it to work.
Eric brought up a good question. He's asking if the 2018 picks for the Lakers were the worst in this regime, because last year's pretty damn bad, Eric. Pretty damn bad.
I don't think right now, guys. I've watched. I always use poor Sam Jacobson in 1998 to humble Jerry West, because it's always a good. We talk about LeBron owning everything and controlling everything. When you're at the top of your career, your establishment, it's very easy to lose focus on. It's very hard to be humble. Let's just say that.
I'm going to say no, because Mo Wagner and Svi Mihalik are still playing in the league, Joe, and Mo is still playing.
Mo is good. Would have been nice to keep him, but obviously for other reasons, it just didn't have time to develop him. Svi couldn't hit a shot to save his own family's life.
But now he's shooting 40% for Boston in spare minutes.
Maybe he feels better wearing green. I don't know.
I'm going to say, Eric, this latest draft, this 2023 draft, will go down in history as the worst Lakers draft of all time.
No, this is by far going to be the worst draft.
JHS and Lewis.
Not because of who they picked, but who they didn't pick.
Yeah.
And it could be this year too. Dallas. Look what Dallas did. Forget about Boston right now for a second. Look at what Dallas did from draft night last year to now. PJ Washington Jr., which, by the way, I got to give props to Sean Grice. For those of you who don't remember, Sean Grice was talking up PJ Washington Jr. a lot. Not a little, a lot. He hit that sucker right on the head. Gafford, huge impact at the deadline. Someone that we were talking about, not a lot, but we talked about, ends up being a huge asset.
And they traded down with OKC and got a pick and still picked up Lively.
Before that, it's not something the Lakers could have done other than maybe move up, which we did hear. We did hear something. Gerald mentioned it. They were talking about maybe moving up to get Derek Lively.
Because he wasn't going to last. And then also on top of that, Joe, they did get the best minimum signing in Derek Jones Jr.
So That's 4 for 4, folks. 4 for 4. When you already have all the same issues all these other teams have. They're up to the cap. There's only so many things you can do in terms of trades. But look what they did. What did we say about what the Lakers have to do to make this thing work? You have to hit on the things you can control. Number one, pick the right coach. Number two, pick the right picks in the draft. At least in the first round, when you're picking the 17th best player in the world. Guys, how many basketball players are out there? Thousands. And you have the 17th pick. That means you have the choice to pick the 17th best basketball player on the planet. This is the NBA. This is the greatest. When they say world champion, it's the NBA. Don't let Greg Popovich turn into Greg Popovich talking to Craig Sager BS. This is not really the world champion. Yeah, it is. The best players play in the NBA, the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, Isaac Bongo's bad. You're right. You're right, Eric. Magic thought he was the next Magic. I remember Magic. Isaac Bonga. When Isaac Bonga was drafted by the Lakers, I remember Magic talking about how there were some things that reminded him of him. I remember that.
You know who else was supposed to be? You know who else was supposed to be the next? Well, technically, it was the Chinese Magic Johnson.
Oh, I know who you're gonna say. Yes,
Sun Yui.
Yes.
Yeah. That he couldn't dribble a ball, let alone pass in the NBA. And of course, God bless him, Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson is unfortunately the guy that will more often than not go the route of being nice than deliberate. At least in public. Maybe in his business life, he's a little more stern. It's interesting how you love the Cobra Kai shows, right?
I absolutely love
okay,
it. Yes.
So there's a weird thing that happens, folks, when you watch something as a child or as an adolescent and then become an adult. It always seems like you go in reverse. So you watch Cobra Kai and you're about Ralph Macchio and Miyagi-Do. But then when you become an adult, you're totally about Cobra Kai. Now, I'm not in that I'm not in that thing. I actually liked Cobra Kai even when I was a kid.
I didn't like Karate Kid. I didn't like any of the movies. I thought they were cheesy, whatnot.
The first one was amazing.
But I watched Cobra Kai, Joe, on YouTube, because that's where Cobra Kai, a few years ago, when it actually originally started, it was on YouTube because YouTube was trying to create original shows for YouTube. And I was just like, this is unlike anything I ever thought that you could make the Karate Kid universe out to be. And I thought it was amazing. And look at all these years later. And now Netflix is going to end it, which I think is stupid. But hey,
why?
They're going to end the series, man.
But why?
They always have a limit. Netflix always has like a limit, like 4 or 5 seasons, 3, 4, even Stranger Things, which you and I both know will still get millions and millions of viewers and millions of hours. They're going to end that series too.
Well, they have to end Stranger Things because Bobby Brown specifically is ready to go.
And I think that's probably the same thing for some of the Cobra Kai
I'm a big believer in ending a show early. I'm not a big believer in,
and that's what they're doing with Cobra Kai.
Yeah, you don't want it to get stale.
Umbrella Factory too.
You want it to be just at that moment where like, no, I don't want it to end. I think that's a good move.
But I love Cobra Kai, JSJ.
Well, if you just keep watching over again, then I miss Entourage. I miss The Sopranos. I just watch them again from 1 to 86, at least for Sopranos. It's a tradition every year, at least twice a year.
Bloodhound, good point. Yes, they do that for costing too much. Although Tires, which is the #1 show right now, the sitcom right now, if you watch, it's like 6 episodes, 20 minutes each. Joe would love it because it has very crude humor in it. Yeah, that thing was made. I think there's like only like 2 or 3 sets. It's really cheap to make, and they've already, I think, approved the next season 2 and season 3 for it because it's very cheap to make. So tires may be around for a little while. Just to let everyone know.
Yeah, it makes sense. It does get expensive because these guys are based off subscriptions.
And they were in the red. Netflix was for a long time before they got it
Well,
right.
they're now sending out, now everything's starting to get advertisements in the middle of your viewing. So that's good. That's nice. You pay a subscription, now you're getting. It happened to Sirius XM Radio after 5 years. I'm like, what is this? Why am I listening to all these commercials? I'm paying monthly, so I don't have to worry about this. Millie Brown is married in real life. Isn't she in the middle? I don't know what that was. But anyways,
yeah, Hellblade is, yeah, if you listen to Josh and I on the Pop Culture Cosmos, we reviewed Hellblade, and I reviewed Tires season 1. But yeah, we reviewed Hellblade 2 out there for you. So we go into depth on it because we both got a chance to play it.
That's good. That's good.
It is, I mean, Joe, if your game had Unreal 5 on it, man.
Well, since you brought it up, I was about to say something. The next trailer is coming out June 7th. And this is going to be,
but not E3 time, which is E3.
We were disinvited by Evo, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
Well, they're jerks. I've dealt with them before too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a really good chance that'll be at the forefront here in about a month or so. So June 7th, the new Corrupt trailer. This is not going to be a trailer like you've seen before. You're going to see some cinematics. You're going to see some talking. Our future icons. Well, cross our fingers. It was a sight to see, to listen to some of these characters come to life. It was pretty nuts.
I'm wishing him. I know he's worked really hard on this game.
Yeah,
so
and we're at the cusp here. We're gonna get a chance to see how independents can really get this sucker out. How the word of mouth thing can really blow up.
How do you get disinvited from Evo?
Well, the brothers over there that run that gig, right?
Well, I've dealt with them before. We were on good terms, and then they I tried to apply one year.
They are very jealous.
And then I'm like, I don't
know. These guys in this industry. I have to be careful because this isn't my, this isn't our show. But I have a lot of respect for Jesse. Jesse Wright is the developer, the head developer of Corrupt, the creator. Jesse knows who I am. Jesse knows that my principles trump anything. And there's been discussions about him and I talking about what we would have to adapt to. I said, absolutely not. I said, if this is what I have to adapt to, I'm out. I will not be involved. And my feeling on that situation, again, I didn't want to name any names yet. I don't want anybody to pull something out and start yapping about defamation garbage, cowards that they are. But those guys that are in charge, those guys, if I was to speak freely, they'd hear something nice. And it's always revolved around, you sit there and you spew a narrative about support, and then when you see someone succeeding, you shut them down. Those guys should be called out, but people are worried about getting sued. Things like that. Me, I plan on, if I ever get to a point where I'm famous and known, I'm going to have the baddest legal team on the planet, and they'll be busy. And we'll deal with it, because telling the truth is telling the truth, right?
Yep.
Hey, but it is what it is. If it bothers you, go ahead. Say what you want to say. But with that, Gerald, it's good to be back. I felt like I was gone for like a week, but it was a really, really fun weekend. extended weekend with the family. It's going to be a very busy month, very busy week in general. But we'll try to make time like we always do for the show. I don't know about that, Pale Fox. Peja was good, but he wasn't that good. Sorry, I can't agree with that one. Close, but not even close. Actually.
That's a tough one, because I'd
No.
say it's closer than maybe.
No, I don't think so. No, Clay is another level. You would never see Peja drop 60 in 29 minutes. Thanks, Sports Baby. I appreciate that, but anyways, I want to thank everyone for being here.
Don't leave us again, Joe.
I didn't leave. I'm not leaving. Even if certain things happen in the draft that I don't agree with, doesn't mean I'm leaving. It's going to be a shift in my viewership. But anyways,
and you're going to see more Joe than anyone here in the next coming.
Yeah,
days,
so I'll be around.
Some time off.
I'll be around. I'll be doing my thing. With that, again, I want to thank you all for being here tonight for the Lakers Nightcap. We had a pretty good crowd tonight for Memorial Day.
That's crowd. The one I signed. White Chocolate. I wish his career had mapped out differently, because he was so fun to watch.
Jason fell into that trap that a lot of players of his talent fall in. They get complacent. They live off their talent and don't work on their game and their stamina and their outside the court stuff enough to create a longer time. But nonetheless, he's got a rep in the league, rep around his constituents. That's very positive, and he was just so fun to watch. Even when he was playing the Lakers, he had quite possibly probably the greatest. He probably had the greatest nickname I ever heard. The perfect definition of what his nickname was. Big supporter from Randy Moss. He went to school with Randy Moss down in Virginia. So yeah, very good one. Good player. Very good player, very fun guy to watch. Would have been a good Laker the first 5 years of his NBA career. Probably would have been bigger, actually, instead of being stuck in Sacramento. But again, with that, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. If you have any comments, any questions, please email us at LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. You can hit me up on Twitter at Joe Soro LFB, or hit me up on Instagram, SinBlades_turf, or Facebook, Johnny Blade with the Punisher logo. And with that, I want to thank my guy here, Gerald Glassford, for always being the support system here. And with that, I'm going to support him during his vacation. And Sean and Nick and maybe probably Jamie and that crazy old man up north. Maybe we might set up something here for all of us.
Oh my God, you got to see the latest article.
Yeah, I did see
Lakerholics.
We might have to set something up here where we can start, some bantering that'll entertain the crowd. I think he's afraid of you. Nah, he ain't afraid of me. He ain't afraid of me. Oh, okay. What's he afraid of me for? Well, remember you wanted to go on the same time as him, and he backed out. Well, I mean, it's important to let people have their time. Oh, JSJ, absolutely. You can count on it. We'll be there for live drive. Yeah, you've got to see our reactions. Just go back to last year and see Joe and Amai's reactions. But yeah, we'll be here for a live draft. Absolutely. And free agency, when free agency starts, everyone. We'll be here for we will be on the draft, and you guys will see me sign off for the evening. That'll likely be what happens. It'll be one of those drop the headphones. I'm going to the gym at that point. Darren says you guys are remembering Clay after his injuries. Use your mind, remember him before the injuries. Better two-way player. Yeah, Darren, good. Thank you for putting that announcement out. Folks, Clay Thompson has an argument of being the second greatest shooter of all time. Clay Thompson is this era's James Worthy. The ultimate talent that coincided as the ultimate teammate. And he could defend. And Clay Thompson, when you make a 3-and-D player, that's who you create. you create Klay Thompson.
Very good to Marcus. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you hit
And
it.
Peja was great. Peja had a fear factor in him. He could shoot, team player, all that. But I'm sorry, folks. I don't think Peja could hold a candle to Klay. Klay Thompson is that guy, and if his leg didn't get shredded, he'd still be that guy right now. But we'll discuss that as time goes on, because we're going to have to talk about Klay here this summer. We don't know if he's going to go back to Golden State, and that could be a topic in itself. But with that, thank you for being here tonight, folks. I'm Joe Soro. This is Gerald Glassford. If you guys do really want to talk after the show is over, go ahead and message us, and I'll be able to answer. I'll be up for a while. But until then, we'll see you next time. And until next time, we'll see you next time.